Welcome back, everybody. It's that time of the week again. Here we are with another episode of NB Bass. I'm your host, Donald Patterson. Thank you for joining me. As always, before we continue, thanks go out to Fish Bum Outfitters, Carrot Sticks Rods, Southern Yankee Baits, War Dog Lures, Northern Michigan Outfitters, Hooked on Canadian Angling, and most importantly, as always, my wife and my son. Without these companies and those two individuals doing what I do, gets a whole lot harder. I've been running many topics through my brain over the last few days, trying to get ready for what I wanted to talk about this week, what direction I was going to go. And unfortunately, this is probably going to be a show that leaves you with more questions than it does answers. But if I'm the only one scratching my head, it's no fun, so I might as well get other people scratching their heads too. It's that time of year, late summer, the dog days of summer, so to speak, but we're just on the verge of fall. And I've been going through my head with this topic leading up to the NBSFA event in Oromocto this coming weekend. Just a few days away now, and I believe I've mentioned in the past, Oromocto in the summertime is not an area that is friendly to Jason and I. In the fall, it's a phenomenal fishery and we love it. In the summer, we haven't traditionally done so well there. So now, here we are. Is it summer? Is it fall? And I've been looking at maps and, talking to other anglers and, trying to game plan for this weekend, because whether it's a fall pattern or a summer pattern, completely changes the way we approach this event. So, what do you look for? What are the signs? It's great to look at a calendar and say, well, this exact time of year 3 years ago, I hit such and such a spot and had great results. But this is that transitional time of year. This time of year 3 years ago, was the water higher or lower? Was the water temperature higher or lower? Or the same? What were the variables? Especially in the case of a body of water like Oromocto, which is tidal, there are so many variables. And this is the benefit of a catch log. It's something that I'll admit I don't use to the utmost of the potential it has. I try to keep track of certain things, and I think I'm getting better at it. I hope I'm getting better at it, because if I am, then we're going to be better served going forward. As tournament anglers, to be able to flip back in a book and say August 20th, 2016, such and such a location, water temperature was this, water clarity was that, tide conditions were, high, low, slack, incoming, outgoing, whatever the case may be. But this is another case where there's no replacement for time on the water. Because I can game plan. I can look at my Google Maps, which, trust me, I spend more than my fair share of time doing. I can go back through my sketchy memory, and I may think I know what we did or what I did 3 years ago. I may think I know what the weather conditions were, what the water temperature was, what the tide conditions were. But at the end of the day, most of us, between work, family, and other commitments, have so much going on, we're lucky to remember what we did yesterday. And yes, we take our fishing seriously, so certain things stick in our minds. I can tell you the color of virtually every bait that I've caught fish on in the last 3 or 4 years, and I can tell you what body of water I was on when I was using it. but that doesn't mean I necessarily remember all the specifics. Lunar cycle, full moon, half moon, what side of the full moon are you on? Are you just before it? Are you just after it? Like I said, tide cycles, high, low, slack, in, coming, out. There's so many variables that my twisted, demented little mind is just not going to be able to hang on to all of them. So a catch log saves me that doubt, saves me second guessing myself. But unfortunately, if I don't have that, which it's just something I've really started it's something I've really started focusing on. So do I have records from 3 years ago? Just what's in my twisted, demented little mind. So do I have the date exactly right? I thought I did. Leading up to this week, last week, all through the week, I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, it was this same week 3 years ago. And the more I think about it, and the more I get looking back at the calendar and the schedules from 3 years ago, it wasn't this week. It was next week. 3 years ago, next week. And, oh, well, it's only a week. Yeah. Tell that to them little bronzeback fish. Little Mr. Small Jaws, a week can be a big, big, big difference. So it's one of those things. And where I don't have that information, I'm left, as I said, I may leave you today with more questions than answers, because I'm left scratching my head saying, well, how big of a difference is that week going to make? Is it, are they going to be in the same area, just maybe a little bit different bite? Are they there? Are they setting in that spot? If I didn't get time on the water, and with our tidal water on the lower St. John River, you're basically looking at a 2-week turnaround for tide cycles. So if I pre-fished this, and I know a number of guys did, and I wanted to, but the opportunity just wasn't there, too much other stuff going on, to get out and give it a proper pre-fish this past weekend, that's not a guaranteed indicator, because our tide cycles run in basically a 2-week pattern. So what we would have seen for tides 2 weeks ago will reflect what we're going to see this coming weekend. So if I was finding fish at high tide in a particular spot this past weekend, that's great. If that's a high tide fishery, if that's a spot that's going to fish best on, at high tide, or on, from the peak of high onto the outgoing tide, that's great. But guess what? Your high tide's going to be off by about 12 hours 7 days later. It's all roughly. It's not exactly 12 hours, but it's close enough that it will put you in the ballpark. And it's close enough that it will completely screw up your plan come tournament day, if that is a spot that is tidal dependent. And that's all stuff that you've got to know. It's all stuff that makes a difference. So how do you decipher it? Flip a coin. If you're not going to get the time on the water to spend breaking that area down, flip a coin, because at this point, there's and I mean, I say that jokingly, obviously there's factors you can look at. Right now we're starting to have cooler evenings, we're still having warm days. Are the evenings long enough and cool enough versus the warm days to bring the water temperature down? If that water temperature is not dropping, or not dropping very quickly, you may have a little more active morning bite with the cooler temperatures. But is it going to be a full-blown transition to fall patterns? not likely. Like I said, those cooler temperatures, if you can get the right wind conditions, get the right spot, it's you hopefully will get your morning bite fired up a little bit. Because those shallow pools up against the edges, things are going to be cooling a little bit. But come the middle of the day when it's 28 degrees Celsius, those fish are still going to be in a full-blown summer pattern, sitting deeper, getting into some cooler water. So it's all part of the game, folks. I wish I could say, definitively that this time of year, this is what you've got to look for. But there are so many little variables that can have a big impact. And here it is Wednesday. Tournament's just a couple days away. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. We're going to be shoving the throttle ahead and going for broke. We just don't know where yet. We've got some ideas. Jason and I have been talking almost every day for the last week, trying to game plan for this. Are we going to be successful? Well, only time and 5 bites will tell. But unfortunately, my crystal ball is a little fuzzy. So all we can do is go out, fish hard, give it our all, and hopefully we don't beat ourselves. And I guess that's what this leads into in these transitional times of year. It's almost easier this time of year to defeat yourself psychologically than it is any other time of year. You get inside your own head. You get doing exactly what I've been doing the last couple days in particular, which is second guessing myself. So, yeah, I thought this, and especially when I realized I made that mistake with the calendar. Here I am I'm not going to say cocky, but quite sure of myself. And then I go digging back through some old paperwork and I find the schedule and I realize how potentially disastrous of a mistake I was making. That I am off by a week. And do I remember exactly what those water conditions were that day, a week, or 3 years ago? No, I don't. I know it was mild. But as far as was the water low or high, I don't remember for sure. It was late summer, so I'm assuming it was a little bit low, but was it as low as it is this year? Is it? I don't know. It's my own fault for not keeping records. But when you're new to this, it's not something you think of. You just want to get out there and catch fish. Well, hopefully I'm giving some information to somebody who's newer to this, and they won't have to make the same mistakes that I've made. I'm not going to promise you I'm going to tell you anything on this show that is going to make you a winning tournament angler right out of the gate. But hopefully I can share a little bit of information with you that's maybe shortens your learning curve a little bit, because there is a big learning curve doing what we do. It's inevitable. When you're new to tournament angling, I don't care how many years you've been fishing bass, you make the switch to tournament angling, there is a learning curve. And we all have to go through it. So hopefully, every now and then I'll put a nugget in somebody's head that helps shorten that learning curve. Makes it a little less painful, and you may not be a prize money donator quite so often before you get to start winning a little bit of it back. But anyways, amazing how fast time flies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll probably touch on this again in the second part of this week's show coming up later today. Until then, thank you, Fish Bum Outfitters, Carrot Sticks, Southern Yankee Baits, War Dog Lures, Northern Michigan Outfitters, Hooked on Canadian Angling, my wife, my son, my amazing tournament partner, Jason. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Donald Patterson. Set that hook, keep those lines tight.